Good morning, everyone. B, can you tell everybody that it's outside to start coming in? Thank you for being here. We're going to wait a few minutes until everybody that it's outside is in, and we'll start. Most of you already know me. I think everybody knows me. Actually, I did invite you personally. So I'm super glad that we finally get to be here. Most of you have worked with me or know past long years since I've been living in the US and have this path with me, teach me, be with me in the moments that I need you. And we had a lot of nice conversations, so it's not a casualty that you guys and girls are the ones that are here. 1 year ago, this was just an idea. And what happens with ideas if we put them down, right? Like if we write them, like just in a little piece of paper, like you start making those ideas come reality. So that idea was told to someone that was crazy enough to trust me and work with me so this can happen. So this event was something that it was built so we can all be here and address some matters that are current in the world. But let me talk a little bit first about Civil Mafia and who we are. We started as a for-profit company. We do digital acceleration services. And this company started from past experiences, right? Everything that we do and everything that follows like past experiences, at least it has to be better than what it was taught us or made us learn from whatever experiences that we have, right? So this company came from a little bit of frustration, a little bit of success, if I may say, because all of us, and we'll address that later, have a different definition of what success is. It comes from a search, the search of understanding, like who I am and what I want to do with my life. And I don't see how all of us in different life stages, at different ages, with kids, without kids, like with a super professional career, or like with like just starting as a junior, like at some point we ask ourselves, what am I doing with my life? Like, is this what I'm going to be doing like forever? Is this what I want to be doing? Like, do I have this role and I'm like this powerful person and like I'm good and happy in the economic side, but is this what it really is? All those questions I asked myself. And then I decided that I wanted to find a way, or I would say like a project in my life where I could merge how I felt on a professional level, but also how I feel on a personal level. Like working on the advertising industry for the last 10 years, it was kind of hard because most of the conversations that I had to have were with men, and it still are with men. Lucky for me, I crossed paths with a lot of amazing people, Jose Antonio, Mark, a lot of amazing guys that were never out of place in the conversations that we have, and we keep we have a relationship for so many years. That is important, of course, to stick to that kind of people. But I also cross paths with the other kind of guys, like the ones that would make you go to 3, 4, 5 meetings so they can just look at you and don't close anything. So I decided that I wanted to stop trying to be someone that I'm not to deal with that people, you know? Like, I just wanted to show up as I am, kind of, because if you guys follow me on Instagram, you know, like, I do too many things that I cannot do in meetings, but like, at least professional meetings, but not to go like so far and not to make it so hard to be the same person, you know, like not to have to wear so many hats and complicate myself around like how to deal with different things. So Civil Mafia, it is the union of the civil and the mafia, because I guess everybody relates business and you know, like earning money and wanting more and being ambitious with like a negative aspect of things. I believe that's beautiful. I love doing business. I love like being smart about like how we can collaborate. I love like introducing people so they can do business. I love generating revenue from I'm a salesperson. I've always been a salesperson. That I think that's my superpower. I've worked in business development, so I thought I also have a very powerful need helping people. Like, that's me. Like, if I don't know you and you tell me one of your issues or your problems in the elevator, I will probably try to give you a solution, introduce you to someone, like walk 5 blocks to whatever solve the thing that it's going on. So that's the civil part, I would say. So it was brought up so I can be just me, you know, nurturing the person that I feel and like what it feeds my soul, but also doing what feeds me and what I like, which is business. We propose this, and this is what we want to do. We propose to change the paradigm on how we relate to others on a business perspective. And this is not just for the advertising marketing industry, or like, this is for any industry, and like, even if you sell veggies or meat, or like if you are in completely different industry, nothing to do with this. It's just a way on how we commit to whatever is happening around us. Because let's face it, we work, like 8, 10, 13, 15 hours a day, and if we want to support someone or help someone or be there for someone, we do it with the time that is left, with the money that is left, with the energy that is left. And that's not enough. So this change of paradigm, basically, and this, I swear you guys, I sent a piece of paper to our graphic designer to let her know what I wanted to show. Basically, this is the traditional model, which is isolated and it's great, like the things that we can do to help, right? The support that we can do. Like you come to your office, or you start your day at work, and sorry, I don't want to give my back to you guys. And we work 8 hours, we have to spend time with our family, we have to sleep, we have to eat, we have to do a lot of things, and after that, there's no more time for anything, not even for the things that give us pleasure, right? Okay. And that's the same with the money that we earn. Like, we earn money, but like, later on, like, you feel like, where is all the money that I earn? Like, because we spend it in like so many expenses and like rent or like mortgages and like everything, and then it's not that we don't have enough to support, but you usually don't give as much as you could, or, you know, like it would be possible to give away. So, and the same thing happens with energy. Like when I get home, or like when I finish working, I don't even have the same energy that I had when the day started, or like that I would like to have to sit down, for example, and read kids some books, or like, you know, go help homeless people to do some stuff. Like, there's so many things that we could be doing as with our energy. Is us that we decide what to do with our time, with our energy, with our money. So the model that we propose, and basically, I didn't want that to happen. It happened. So what we propose is just to have an ongoing, focused, and scalable model. And how we do it is we go out, we sell our products, we sell our services, and when we get a client, we send them a proposal, we match them with a nonprofit, right? So when we deliver our services, when that client is happy, when they pay, of course, we use that, a little bit of that margin, and depends on, you know, like what the business was, like the amount of margin it has. Like, you know, we all know that different businesses bring different money, different margins. to support different nonprofits. So luckily enough, we have Elsie here, we have Eileen, we have like different people from like different nonprofits that we collaborate with, and we work with. We provide also our services to them. We help them as much as we can with their product, meaning like their branding products, you know, like logos, websites, presentations, in order for them to be able to go look for funds. We do trainings, so we kind of provide different services, and we do that with the time that we're investing in building and growing our business. So that's kind of what we're proposing. It's a for-profit company that destinates a part of its margins to support different nonprofits. And as a consequence of building this and realizing that there was a lot of other needs, plus a lot of logistic and administration barriers and challenges, we decided to open or to create the Mafia Foundation, which is a foundation that it's dedicating the whole time and the whole energy and the whole their whole revenues to allocate to entrepreneurial projects, nonprofits, and anyone that needs a hand, an arm, or whatever they may need. So I don't want to talk that much. I really want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank the team, which part is in Argentina, and they worked so hard. I want to thank my sister. I don't think she's here. She worked very hard, but she didn't even came to listen to me, Luna. I mean, she's been hearing, like, listening to me for 35 years, so I think she's got enough. And now with a microphone, it's even worse, I guess. But thanks to her, because nothing could have happened without her. And of course, all of you, the team in Argentina, you lost my speech. It wasn't that good though, but like, thank you. And I'm gonna welcome our first panel. The moderator is gonna be Heidi Pellerano. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let me see how I can get myself situated here for a second.
You want me to take this? That one. All right.
Okay, I might fail at this. I'm usually not the moderator, so I'm like, oh, this one requires prep work. So thank you for the opportunity. Flor, thank you for having this great event and gathering all these amazing people. Like I said, Heidi or Heidi, depending on the part of the world. Pellerano, also depending what part of the world. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer of Concacaf. I promise I will not ask how many of you know who Concacaf is, because it might break my heart a little bit. I don't know the answer. But again, we are here to chat.
Oh, sorry. No worries. Fancy.
Oh, I'm projecting now. We are here to talk about diversity and inclusion in the advertising industry. Given that this is a smaller group, we want to make sure it's intimate and that we get to the points that matter most to everybody here. So I'm going to ask my panelists to come in and join me. I have Alvaro, Daniela, and Josh. Awesome. So what I would want to do, and I'll pass the mic, is why don't each of you give us like a little minute brief background and why it is important for you to have the opportunity to share your story here with everybody.
Well, hi everyone. So I think I was just telling this story yesterday that I'm Colombian, but I grew up partly in Germany. And I had my first girlfriend, and she was German. And that was Flor. And she was like, her grandma was like, can't you have like a German boyfriend? Like, isn't there like German boys in your school? And she told me that. And I was like, that was, I think, the first time that I was like, okay.
How do you want us to do this?
And then I was like, okay, I might. Good?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pass it around.
Yeah, I think it might be better.
Yeah, no problem. So anyway, that was the first time that I was faced with like discrimination, if you will. It was all like good energy, but she was like curious, like why not like German boyfriend? And since then, I thought like, okay, brands have a lot of power in this. I used to love Benetton when I was younger, and that made me feel like inclusive. I had like a Benetton pullover, and I was like, this is like my magic cape, I belong. Anyway.
Okay, so thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Daniela Moran. I was born and raised in Ecuador, and I've been living in the US about half my life. So I work in travel and hospitality. I've been working for airlines, distribution channels like Expedia, and now hotel industry for the last 16 years. And through working, I think I can relate to what Flor was mentioning, through working with mostly men, sitting in the table, making the decisions, I think it's important to keep on advocating towards female leaders so that we have a better balance into what happens to companies, what's the outcome into tourism, travel, hospitality overall. And I think that it goes beyond the industry that I am. But I think that what motivated me is, sitting in conversations with banks, and it's just me and then a bunch of guy bankers. Or sitting in conversations with tourism boards and having this notion of, we're not doing enough for local communities, we're not doing enough for being inclusive, and trying to challenge them to do better. So that's what we're here. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very much, Flor, for putting this together and for having us be part of this panel. So I think what you're doing is amazing. My name is Yash from Persona. I am the sales director for the US for a probabilistic identity company called Rockad. I am, being a minority, being from San Juan, Puerto Rico, I've been here for about 14 years, but being a minority and also being part of the LGBTQIA+ community, I think that it's very important to be part of the conversation when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I was very honored to have Flor invite me to be a part of this panel, and very excited to be here.
Awesome. All right, so we have great diversity here. I didn't know you were from San Juan, Puerto Rico. That's where I'm from. And I can tell you to your story, believe it or not, I wrote my college essay on how I became a minority in a 3-hour flight. I never heard that word minority. I grew up in Puerto Rico, but I finished high school in the US. My mom went to North Carolina to get a PhD, and all of a sudden I became a minority, and people thought I got to my university because I was one of those scholarship kids, and I was like, but we're in the same AP calculus class, so can I be one of those? But thank you, everybody. Again, want to make sure this is engaging for everybody. So we talked about this a little bit, right? I don't know if we want to go through the stats, because I think we'll end up very depressed, right? There's a lot of work that has been done. I think we look at the diversity here, obviously, and these are the people. What we want to do is today is engage in how can we identify what are those obstacles that continue to make sure that we have panels like this, right? So that we can get to that infamous tipping point and we can be part of the solution, right? So I think that's where I want to start. You talked about your different experiences at your different work environments. You are tackling diversity and inclusion and obstacles, not only as a company to fix it, but also internally as the people working in those organizations. So what I'll do is, again, we'll go back and forth. Please chime in at any time. But from your experience, right, what do you think is the biggest challenge that we still face, that we still have to discuss, making and taking down barriers?
Yeah, so since we're here in a marketing forum, I think one of the biggest problems I see is like just fear. Like fear of talking about it, fear of facing it. It's almost like, everyone hopes it just like goes away somehow. Some hope it fixes, some hope it doesn't, but it's like, let's not do anything about it because it's too risky. So I personally, my background was in advertising, and I was lucky enough to work in the Dove campaign in Kotex, so a lot of like learning about what women face not being a woman. And I thought, well, brands have this transformational power, like Dove with what they did with beauty, right? So that's a brand doing it, like a brand change how people view beauty. So why are the rest of the millions of brands not doing as much, right? Because Dove also has proven that it was a commercial success. If you guys remember, Dove was about to disappear as a brand before they launched the Real Beauty campaign in 2004. So I thought, like, if brands have that power, why are they not doing anything? And I think mostly it's because of fear, but then it's also because of a lack of data. They don't know how to measure if I, as a brand, take the flag for whatever I believe in, how is that impacting my brand reputation and how is that impacting my business? So to Flor's point, right? Both things go hand in hand. And then once I saw that, that's when we started Crayons to start helping companies have data on that and helping them bring to the bosses and to whoever needs to see it, like, hey, this is actually important, but it's also good for business, right? And we could talk hours about that, but we're not going to do it. But to Concacaf point, right? So football, I'm a big football fan, being Colombian. That's like my religion. So we did a project with Costa Rica where we analyzed all of the brands in the country to see how they were performing in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion in their communications. And turns out one of the best ones was Food, right? So Football is the Costa Rican national football brand company in part of Concacaf, and they were performing so well because they did the World Cup for women. So they were talking a lot about women football, and suddenly, like a sport that was very, very male-driven became very interesting because of women performing so well. And that happened in Costa Rica, that happened in Colombia, that's happening. Thankfully, men are doing really bad. So we put our hopes in women. So, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's great. I mean, I think complementing to what Alvaro was mentioning, I completely agree that fear and the fear to stand up and challenge the norm, what we consider the norm, it's part of the issue, the challenge. Education. I think that, we need to get better at being and getting involved. I mean, I made a case to, now I work for a high-end corporation. I'm based here, I lead Latin American Caribbean, but I'm part of a corporate role. So I joined the Latinos at Hyatt chapter. I'm helping lead that. I'm part of the Women at Hyatt as well, because I think it's important to have a voice, right? I think that being an example and leading by example is key, and you don't need to be a manager to be able to lead by example. That's another key point. You don't have to be a manager, you don't have to have direct reports in order to be an example. I work in digital media as well, and I think that where I've been challenging mostly airlines, hoteliers, tourism boards is into test and learn. Everything is measurable, so test it. And you will see the result, you will see the impact. Part of the example of what I've been pushing our partners throughout the last decade to test and try is, when we talk about business travel, well, why don't we lead with women? Why does it have to be men having the business travel identity? When we think about hoteliers, for instance, or destinations, DMOs, destination marketing organizations, tourism boards, it's like, well, why does it always have to be the traditional family or the couple, meaning male and female? Let's evolve. I think that by testing it, they have shown great results, not just by engagement, but actually business. When you start educating people on how every segment can contribute differently into your business, it's eye-opening. At the end of the day, they do it for the business, for the money, but I think that it is our responsibility to do it for the purpose of integrating and making our world a lot more inclusive. I think that one of the latest trends that we're seeing now is actually now pushing towards people with disabilities? How do we help people with disability travel, And how do we lead that by showing them that there is an option for them, This is all digital first, so it's about apps, it's about websites, it's about getting involved. Many of our hotels today are part of what's called queer destinations, and their mission is to join forces and make it a world, the world more inclusive and to understanding the needs of your traveler. Meaning, when you go and check into a hotel, it doesn't necessarily need to be his and her robe or his and her sandals, flip-flops. Personalize, if you know who's coming, personalize the experience. It will lead to loyalty, it will lead to guest satisfaction and best reviews. There's nothing better than the word of mouth, it's free. So, if you are able to capitalize on that by providing the right experience, I think that it's a win-win-win. I mean, for the business, for those of us who are trying to push for it, and for the traveler that's wanting to have an experience based on what their preferences are.
So yeah, I definitely think we can all agree that fear is one of the biggest issues, particularly from the advertiser side of business and the brand side of the business. I think a lot of brands are still very afraid of sending out a message that is not going to resonate to a specific segment that might be a large proportion of who their buyers are. And I think that the brands ultimately and the advertisers have a responsibility to really stand by the right things, sending the right messaging, making sure that they are including all other segments, not just one particular individual segment, that are diverse, and that they really need to stick to their guns. And when something like the issue with Bud Light happens, they need to go ahead and respond to that and say, no, we stand by what we've done, and we stand with these communities. I think from an internal aspect, in terms of the space and the ad tech environment, I think we can all agree that it's a pretty cis white male type of industry. And I think a lot of times minorities, a lot of times people part of the LGBTQIA plus community will try to kind of not expose that side of ourselves internally, just by fear of being rejected by people that don't represent our demographics. And I think it's our responsibility to be a little bit stronger and a little bit louder and make ourselves a bit more visible as well.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can comment
please.
On your last point, I think that we are changing the curve into making it more inclusive, whereas, my personal opinion, 5-10 years ago, we actually were segmenting, which we shouldn't do. It's not like, okay, this is a product directed to this group. This is a hotel that is, positioned for a particular group. It's actually bringing everybody together, like making it inclusive instead of segregating it further.
Excellent points. I think there's a lot of here to unpack. I think fear was one constant theme, and it's true, right? I think it's almost like that. I've always heard that word alienate, right? They're concerned if I do this, I alienate somebody else. The other thing here about inclusivity and segmentation that's very interesting, just a little bit by show of hands, right? Do you define yourselves by one characteristic? Right? 2 characteristics? No. 3? No. Right? 4? So I think that's a lot of what we deal with, I think, in a little bit in advertising, right? People want to, Hispanics. Well, look at us. It seems like a lot of Hispanics here. I don't see a lot of just instant similarities across all of us, right? No? Yeah? There might be a lot of different, like I always tell people, like this kind of analogy of origin stories, right? We all have an origin story of how we came to this country, potentially, how we got to fall in love with what we do. So I think that's the part that a lot of times advertisers, to your point, that personalization is missed. So one of the things that I want to now kind of continue to deliver, you talked a little bit about really understanding and data, right? And being able to track in campaigns as well. You talked about in your organization, because that's where you probably see a lot of biases
that you don't think about. So tell us a little bit about how your organization is trying to really tackle this by bringing awareness potentially about the biases that exist in advertising and communications that people are not even realizing. And then continue for you, how are you thinking about this and helping be a voice for people to recognize those things and the role of data?
Yeah, so great point about the segmentation. So what I think is we might not have like a specific characteristic in common, but I understand the brand as a community. Mm-hmm. So what we do have in common is that we believe in their story, right, or not. Mm-hmm. So I think if you as a brand understand that, and you have a very consistent and well-defined story, then you're gonna get a lot of probably diverse people behind it because the story is relevant, right? So to the question about how we're tackling that is exactly that. And another point to Daniela's point is that I also see a lot of companies very like afraid of being vocal outside because they feel like they're not perfect internally, which no one is, right? So they're like, I have to fix this because I don't have, I have a pay gap, or I have a recruiting bias, or so I can't talk about it because I'm not perfect. If we would do that, nobody would ever talk about this, right? So I tell them, like, the example with CVS Health, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how many employees do you have? I don't know, 100,000? Okay, so you're focusing your efforts on those 100,000. Now, do you know how many people you touch on a daily basis outside of your company? Mm-hmm. Like 300 million? So the impact that you can have through your storytelling as a brand is much, much bigger than you could ever accomplish just by what you're doing internally. It doesn't mean you don't have to do it. It just means, like, do both. Mm-hmm. Because you're anyway doing both. Mm-hmm. So just focus on that. And the way we're tackling that is we take all of the organic communications that companies are doing on, for example, social media, and then we use AI to identify the content into DI pillars. So is this race and ethnicity? Is this LGBTQIA+? Is this mental health? Is this sustainability even can be part of DI? Is this, whatever it is, like the pillars that they have. And then we see the engagement that they're generating. Normally, to your point, is when you do DEI storytelling, the engagement tends to be 10 to 20 times higher on organic for whatever DEI story you do versus non-DEI. So that is a clear indication for companies that if you start being, of course, true and honest and all that good stuff, but if you do that well as a brand, your brand love is going to grow. That's going to grow your loyalty. That's going to be acquiring leads easier. That's going to get acquiring talent easier because right now, like the big companies are not even as concerned about consumers as they are concerned about talent. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have like a decent DEI positioning, probably you're not going to attract talent no matter how much you pay. Mm-hmm. So that's how we're doing it. Like basically measuring what you're doing outside of your company.
Yeah, I have to agree with that, but I think more than, and then to your point, your audience is so very many groups, right? So I think it's more about positioning your company, positioning your marketing campaigns based on the purpose, based on what is the purpose, what do you stand for, and live it, right? I think also what we're trying to do currently is focus on the people more than the product. When we think about a restaurant, it's not about showcasing, this is a fabulous restaurant, it has earned so many reviews. No, it's like, who's the people behind? Who's the chef? Let's have actually a piece, a short clip video of the chef. What is his routine, I'm always at awe when I see a hotelier open a new property. My region is Latin American Caribbean, so a property in Mexico resort markets, for instance, a new property employs anywhere between 1,500 to 2,000 people, a big resort, and that is helping local communities as well. So how do you bring that into your story so that you position that? Because there's a lot more travelers, and this is actually, the research, like third-party research, TIP, and so much more. People are motivated to travel with a purpose. to find a passion, to go to destinations and, travel with and stay at businesses that stand for a purpose and that will make them feel better. Not just of traveling and having a great vacation, but actually that they're contributing. They're contributing back to local communities. So I think that there's a way there. In terms of testing and data and what we're doing, I think it's a lot of A/B testing into ads, not just creative, but actually segmentations as well. Looking at what's working best and pivot. The good thing is that you can always be proactive. You don't have to wait for something to be done. It's not a print ad that you don't know what's happening, who's seeing it. So I think that's how we are approaching it.
I do definitely agree. I think the segmentation issue, I think for us as an organization, we help companies expand their segments. They deliver against things like frequency capping, as well as performance and attribution. But as an organization, we always try to encourage people to not be so hyper-focused on one nation-specific segment, but actually broaden those segments as well. I think something that internally we do and that a lot of organizations can do is we make sure that the people that are within our leadership teams are multicultural, they are diverse, so that you have a lot of different viewpoints, a lot of different opinions that are contributing to the direction that your organization is taking, as well as involve ourselves within our communities, within specific nonprofits that are important to us and to our customers. So,
Awesome. All right, I want to be respectful of Flor's agenda, so that so I'm going to wrap it up with one more question. So this is going to be a little bit open-ended, and then if anybody in the audience wants to add, please let me know. So obviously the saying goes, "Be the change you want to see in the world," right? And I think a lot of times, I know in a lot of organizations that I've worked with, when I met a lot of the young people, their idea is like, no, that's organization has to change, right? Like it's the organization that is responsible for helping me develop. It's the organization that's responsible to hire more diverse candidates. Fortunately, I end up laughing because I kind of said, you don't understand how corporate America works, right? And there's this thing called shareholders. Somebody invented this concept of money and all of that, right? It's not that utopia, right? That drives corporate America. So, we want to, everybody here, what is the advice that you can share with this group about how we all can contribute, como dicen, el granito de sal, to be the change in the world?
Giving advice is always difficult. So in my case, it was like I was working at Ogilvy, and again, I had the opportunity to go at DOF and Cotex, but 90% of my job was really bad stuff. So I was just generating a lot of things that I didn't believe in, that I knew was not going to do any good. So internally at Ogilvy, I started thinking about this, and again, my hypothesis, well, people can't measure it, they're not going to optimize against that. So how can we do that? So I created, we called it Ogilvy Brain, so that it was basically like a department within Ogilvy to measure that. It didn't work as I expected, so I had to leave the company and start my own thing. And so my advice there would be, if you know you're not, and I think that was also Flor's opening speech, right? Like, if you know what you're doing doesn't align to your values, don't do it. Right? Change it. Maybe you can change it where you are. Maybe not. Maybe you have to change where you are to be able to align to that. But if you don't do it, nobody's going to do it for you, and eventually you're going to regret it. So.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think, and I open up with this, is live it, be the example. Do it yourself. You might not change the world, but you will change some people, and it spreads out. I think, in my case is having a voice and not be afraid of having it. I'm an extrovert by nature, and I'm very outspoken. So, I see it on leadership, on the leadership team for Latin American Caribbean, and I see the difference. There's 3 females and 12 men. So I have a responsibility to be there, to not miss those meetings, to have an opinion. And then, I'm have a goal, a tangible goal. I can tell you that for Latin American Caribbean, our goal is by 2025 to have at least 30% of our general managers in properties to be female. We might not get there, but we're trying. Having a goal will get you closer to getting there. So I think that's how you do it. And to Alvaro's point, there's other venues for you to do what you like, that it's not necessarily going outside of the politics of the company you work for. Use your talent, use your resources where you see fit. And I think that this event today is one example of that. I mean, we're here today, we probably could be working, but it's important. It's important to come, share, and contribute.
Absolutely. Just to echo what Daniela and Alvaro shared. Ultimately, I mean, if you don't like a narrative, if you don't like how something is happening within your organization or with one of your clients, ultimately you have the control to change it. You're allowed to change it. So I think the most important thing, or most important piece of advice that I can give to myself and to others out there is just speak up. If you don't feel comfortable with something, if you think that the direction that something is going, whether it's internally or external, make sure to voice that opinion and come up with a solution as well. Get more involved in our communities. Like Flor said, a lot of times we end up giving what's left of us. Make it a personal mission to be a part of your community and be strong in that sense.
So to wrap up the panel, I think thank you very much for all your contributions and the openness. I think one of the things that I would like to say that, at least for me personally, that allowed me to do those things and work through the fear is, and I think it's a personal journey, but it was getting to the point that a lot of times you kind of are always afraid to speak up because of the potential retribution or what that could mean to my career. And I think, again, it wasn't like it hit me one day, but it probably was an evolution for me where I kind of got to this point that I accepted two truths. One, the first truth was that it's okay if I get fired, fighting for something that I believe, because I should have faith enough in myself that I can land on my feet. And that was very liberating, to be honest with you, allow me to be a little bit more bold in speaking up when I saw things that I did not agree. And then the second thing that I encourage you all to think about that I don't know if we do enough is when you're growing up, you're kind of taught about you're having a moral compass, but you're not taught about having a professional compass, right? And creating and defining that. And that was the other thing that I kind of started to define, what it was that professional compass, and to also accept that because of that, I might not be able to achieve certain things in my career, right? I might not be able to be, please, is this being recorded? But I will probably never be president of FIFA because I'm not willing to do what it takes to be the president of FIFA, right? And that's the part, right? We're kind of all wired to be the CEO, and it's okay because sometimes that's not necessarily how you're going to be able to affect the most change. So thank you, everybody. I don't know. We're good on time? Okay, excellent, excellent. Let me see.
Thank you guys so much. That was amazing. I feel very, very moved by everything that you said. Actually, what Heidi was saying, it resonated me because that's kind of what I always think when there's a situation or something that I need to make a decision on. Like, what's the worst case scenario of this? Like, what would happen? And that's it. Like, would I lose this client? Would I like lose my time on this? Like, I cannot fire myself. Sometimes I do feel like I should fire myself. But as of right now, I cannot do that. But it is like that. What's the worst thing that can happen to you if you do the things that you live by, right? So that's I love everything that you said, and I hope you guys are enjoying this. I want to introduce you to Bianca. She's hello, Bianca. She's our client and vendor relationship partner, and she's going to introduce herself, and then she's going to introduce someone very special for us as well.
Hi everyone, thanks for being here with us and showing this morning. As Flor said, I'm Bianca. I'm client and vendor relationship manager at Mafia. We are not here just for another networking event. We are here to learn and speak about DIA. At City Mafia, DIA is not only a trendy aspect to include in our unique value proposition. We constantly learn and improve our communication and behaviors around it. We think that in this world it's so important, and we through it as a paramount for us. So we prioritize it with our clients, with our partners, and with the users in the other side of the screen. That is why we are pleased to introduce Alison Rose from Break the Binary, who will be delivering a speech titled as Moving Beyond Performative Addiction. What does this title mean? Well, they will tell us. So, Ali, come here and join our gang. Feel free to make questions, raising your hand, and the same in our audience on the stream. So, that's yours.
Thank you.
Here.
I'm going to pull up the chair, if that's okay. Oh, can I hold this one? Or...
Yeah. Here.
Oh, there. Okay, cool.
For the stream.
Perfect. Hi, everybody. Hi, I'm Addison. Hello. Hi. Let me just put this on. So my name is Addison, and I use they, them pronouns. Does anyone know what pronouns are by chance? Awesome. So pronouns are the words and terms that we use to refer to someone in the third person, right? So there's he, him, his, she, her, hers. I use they, them, theirs, meaning that you would say, I know Addison. They look great today. You know, their shirt is white, and their favorite color is green, you know? So that's how you'd refer to me and talk about me to other people, right? And I'm a non-binary person, which means for me that I don't identify as a man or woman. I'm someone in between and outside of that binary. Because we've seen that gender, sexuality, race, class, disabilities are not just black or white or one or the other, right? There's so much gray area in between and outside. And so I'm one of those people. And I'm proud to be running Break the Binary, which is my consulting firm where I teach people about what it means to be LGBTQ+, what it means to address our own implicit bias, because we all here, right, and around the world, carry implicit bias. We carry this sense of how we see the world from a limited perspective. And we see people, other people, especially from other marginalized groups, as a single story. And that's what I loved hearing about from the panel before this, and I want to speak a lot about the panel that came before because it was a lot of great insight, was that we see people as a stereotype, oftentimes. We see people as one single story, and we lump an entire group of people, let's say the LGBTQ+ people, as having one single experience, one common experience. And therefore, when we go out and we market towards those groups of people, we're going to send one uniform message. It's going to somehow apply to everyone. But again, as brought up to you by Heidi earlier, we all have multiple identities that we experience. And even if we share the same identities, we're going to have different experiences because of where we live, who we're around, what we're exposed to, what our values are. And so it's so important for our messaging to be diverse, our messaging to be complicated, not just one single story, one message, one idea, but to be complicated, and for it to happen throughout the year. So I want to talk a little bit about performative allyship and what that means and what that looks like, because the panel before this talked about why it's so involved, why it's so important to get involved, why it's so important to speak out for different marginalized communities, right? Not only is it profitable for your companies, but there's a social responsibility that a lot of companies have because we live in capitalism, and companies and businesses impact social change, right? And communities and social change impact how you do business. It's a back and forth. So it's really, really important for you to get involved and speak up and out for marginalized communities. And right now, across the United States, there's over 600 bills that have been introduced and are being passed actively to discriminate and attack the LGBTQ plus community, specifically transgender and non-binary people, especially youth right now. And we're also seeing attacks against drag queens. In fact, I believe here in Florida, a bill was just proposed and passed that allows for discrimination within healthcare settings against LGBTQ plus people. So doctors, nurses can discriminate on the basis of their own faith, their own beliefs, and say, I'm not going to treat you because you're gay, because you're trans. And again, too, that person might not even identify that way, but because of how they see that person, how you walk, how you talk, how you look, right? I'm going to make an assumption about you, and I'm going to treat you a certain way now, right? So right now, I actually have a little bit of an earache and stuff, too, from my trip from Costa Rica. I just came back from Costa Rica. It's beautiful. Oh, my God. I didn't want to leave. And I actually had the option maybe to go to an urgent care last night or this morning, and I decided not to because of that fear, right? So these are things that people don't think about oftentimes, too. But for someone like me, I have to think about, am I going to be safe in different places? If I'm going to be hired by a certain company, am I going to be safe there as well? Because they can market themselves as super friendly, super diverse, very inclusive. But then when you get into the actual company, start working there or working with them, you find that people aren't actually like that. So I have to think about these things constantly, too. And for many people here, too, who are people of color, who are women, who have disabilities, maybe who are immigrants, too, you navigate these spaces, too, with that fear as well, right? So for me, when I think about performative allyship, I think about Pride Month right now. Pride Month is June, and for folks who don't know, we celebrate Pride every June as the LGBTQ plus community in honor of the Stonewall riots. The Stonewall riots happened in 1969. Write this down if you don't know this history. So the Stonewall riots were in New York City, and there's a bar called Stonewall. And for decades, there had been laws across the country that criminalized people who were gay and who were trans. And the ideas where the laws were around, if you dressed a way that did not match your ID, the gender marker on your IDs, then you could be arrested and put into jail, okay? So after many years of people being frustrated that police would go into gay bars and they would arrest people just for looking different or for kissing someone of the same gender or sex, one night in June, it was June 28th, 1969, the patrons of the Stonewall riots, or Stonewall bar, were fed up. They're like, you know what, tonight we're not doing this anymore. There's a rumor, too, that because Judy Garland had died that day, and Judy Garland being a gay icon, people were like extra amped up. They said, we're done, and they started throwing bottles at the police that were coming in, started throwing glass, started throwing anything that they could find, and it erupted into this big riot where many people were being attacked, trying to be arrested, but people fought back. And that sparked this bigger movement the following year, every June, of getting people together to rally around how can we support our brothers and sisters who are LGBTQIA, right? How can we rally together as a community to fight for our rights? And it was a lot around, too, how can we address criminalization? How can we address police brutality? How can we address the incarceration of LGBTQ plus people just for existing, just for living, right? By the way, we're seeing that actively happening with Black communities across the nation right now, too, okay? So this is not just applying to the LGBTQ plus community. So we celebrate Pride every June in honor of that act. That wasn't the only act of resistance, but it's one of the most famous ones. So what happens is that I see that we do Pride parades across the country, lots of rainbows, right? Lots of cool things. And companies want to get involved because, again, as we heard about in the panel before this, we realize that there's a need to get involved, a need to talk about and support the LGBTQ plus community. And so companies will do things like rainbow washing and pink washing. And so I want to break those two down for you. And feel free to write those down as well. Pink washing and rainbow washing. Now, rainbow washing is when you have a certain product. Let's say you sell t-shirts. And you sell t-shirts all year round. And they have lots of cool messages, maybe cute memes on them. Who knows, whatever your t-shirts are, right? And you decide, okay, for June, for Pride Month, I'm going to sell this product as a rainbow design, right? Or I'm going to take my logo for my company and make it a rainbow themed. But I'm only going to sell that t-shirt, that rainbow t-shirt, or I'm only going to have that logo up for June. And that's it, right? And what happens with that is that you're saying, I only want to see this community during a specified time, but the rest of the year, I don't want to talk about you or care about you. Or I want to sell a product specifically for this community to get their money, but then I don't really want to sell it the rest of the year because I know that it's not going to speak to other people, right? Even though you're still going to have LGBTQ plus people possibly buying from you, right, all year round. So that's one thing with rainbow washing. Pink washing is a term that we see with like different societies and different countries, but it applies to companies too, where clients or companies will say, we are super LGBTQ plus inclusive. Let me show you pictures of my gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual employees. Let me show you some work that we've done, and we'll post that during Pride Month especially, and show that during Pride Month. But please see this so you can ignore from all the bad things that we're doing over here, right? See this so that you see that we're actually actively not hiring LGBTQ plus people, or because there's maybe other scandals happening within our company, or because our product that we've been creating actually does harm certain communities, right? I think about BP oil, right? Which has had these huge oil spills and has caused a lot of horrible things with climate change and environmental disasters too. But they'll put out a little rainbow logo and they'll go, look at us, see, we're inclusive. Please keep, getting gas from us, right? It's really, really important for companies to be aware of what they're doing and how they're showing up. Because I know that y'all want to show up. I know you want to be inclusive and supportive of these communities. But it's so important for you to break down, am I only doing this one time of the year? Am I trying to do this so that way I can only get the money from that community that I want to be an ally to? Am I only doing this, am I only stepping up as an ally so that way you can see me as an ally over here while I'm actually doing other things over here, right? So some things that a lot of companies do that are common mistakes when it comes to performative allyship is that you might not have a staff or a leadership team especially that is LGBTQ plus identified. There's no representation of people out as part of this community on your team. If you don't have folks on your team who are LGBTQ plus identified or even consulting with folks who are a part of this community, how will you know how to really connect with this community? How will you know what to do specifically to, right? And not just having one person from the community represent everyone. Like for me today here, I'm a non-binary person, but I do not represent all non-binary people because non-binary people have such different experiences, look different ways, are going to want different things. So for folks, it's really important to have multiple people on your team that can speak to different experiences within one community. Another mistake that I see a lot of folks do is that, again, they're doing the rainbow washing aspect, wanting to put out products to get money from a certain community to look like an ally, but maybe don't invest any of that money back into the community. So I love companies where they'll say, all proceeds from these products will go towards this organization to support this cause, right? So maybe Target, for example, will donate a large portion or even all proceeds from their Pride campaign to Human Rights Campaign or other local organizations too. And I love when people donate to local organizations because National organizations are good for political advocacy, but we see a lot of intense work happening on the local levels with local organizations. So shelters, food banks, clothing shelter or clothing swaps, lots of different things like that. And another mistake that I think that people do in companies that is performative allyship is that they'll put out onto social media, look how cool we are, look how inclusive we are, right? But when situations happen within a company that are anti-LGBTQ, right? Maybe you have a coworker that says something that is transphobic. You have a manager that states something that is actually homophobic, right, against LGBTQ plus people. No one says anything. Everyone stays silent. Maybe it's a joke that is made. Maybe it's a comment. Maybe it's a question that's really invasive towards someone. And no one says anything because we're not sure what to say. We're not sure what to do. Or we think it's normal for that thing to happen. So it's really important to speak up, to speak out, to not be silent within our workspaces too. And I want to bring that back to something that I was just thinking a lot about in the panel. We're talking about companies, so teams and organizations. But the number one thing that I think everyone here can do on an individual level, on your own time, is to reflect on the ways that you have contributed to an anti-LGBTQ plus world. We all here, like I said earlier, carry implicit bias. And when I say these things, folks here in the room might be going, I'm an ally. What are you talking about? I'm not like that at all. Like, I don't see the world through a narrow lens. We all do, including myself. And I'll give you a little story. In coming out as a queer person and as a non-binary person, so queer represents my sexuality, non-binary represents my gender identity, just to clarify for folks. In coming out and addressing my own identities, I realized that I carry a lot of transphobia and homophobia. Was that my fault? Not at all, right? It's because we live in a culture and in a society where we're constantly sent messages that it's not okay to be gay. And if you don't get that specific type of messaging, you get, it's good to be straight. It's good to get married to someone of the opposite gender or sex. It is good to have a nuclear family, to have kids, right? It is good to live life a very specific way. And we find that all these notions of heterosexuality, heteronormativity in particular, around being rich, being able-bodied, of looking slim, of all these different things are oftentimes, and I'm going to maybe blow some people's minds, it's all rooted in white supremacy and racism, okay? So when we address and we look at our own homophobia and transphobia that we're carrying in ourselves, including myself, we're also addressing classism, ableism, but most importantly, white supremacy and racism within ourselves. I know, I'm going to let you just marinate on that for a second. Just sit with that. So like I said, I've had this within myself, and that made it really hard for me, to come out, to be me. Because who wants to be different in this world, right? If you know you're not going to be accepted. Don't you want to be able to make your family proud? Don't you want to be able to make your peers proud, your community proud, right? And to be liked and to be accepted. So it was really, really hard for me to come out because I first had to address the isms and the phobias within myself. And once I did that, so much opened up for me. And not only was I able to accept myself more, but I was able to accept and want to advocate for other people too. So I just bring this to you because even if you're not someone who is queer or trans or non-binary like me, if you don't identify as part of the LGBTQIA+ community, I feel like there's a lot of people here too that can understand having something within themselves, maybe even shame within themselves around an identity that you identify with. And again, not your fault. It might have come through messaging through TV and film, from our families, from church or other religious institutions. Maybe it's from interactions with friends or other people in the past, having traumatic experiences too, that have all shaped how we see ourselves. But the first step in really authentic allyship is being able to address the isms that we carry within ourselves. Because once you address that, and once you can have even more self-compassion as an ally, because I find too that a lot of people feel that to be an ally means that you have to hate yourself in order to show up for another community, where you have to put down your identities in order to support another community. It's not that. Allyship is about having so much self-compassion for yourself, eliminating that shame for any of your own identities, and having so much confidence in yourself that you're able to show up authentically for someone else. So that's the first step, really, in authentic allyship. And I wanted to take a pause, because I know that there might be some questions. But I know I threw a lot at you. You're like, what is going on? So I just want to open up to see if there's any questions at this time or on the live stream. Yeah.
Sorry, this is something I actually saw on your Instagram page.
Yeah.
That some ways to, I don't know if you use the word correct, but correct if people make mistakes when using mistaken pronoun at work, at the workplace. So can you give us some tips? I don't know if they're called tips, but...
Great question. So the question was around what happens when maybe you mess up a coworker's pronouns in the workplace, right? You get their identity wrong, you say the wrong thing, what happens? So what this is called is misgendering. And what looks like oftentimes is, for me, someone will be talking to me and someone else, and it's happening in front of me, and they'll refer to me to the other person as he or she, right? Remember, my pronouns are they. So that's how I like to be talked about and addressed. So when that happens, for someone like me, this is happening every day, all the time, everywhere that I go. Because people don't always see me and know me, and I can't always mistake them too, right? Because if you don't know my name, right? If I'm walking down the street and see me for the first time, you probably don't know my name, you don't know anything about me, and including my pronouns and my identity. And it's good too, because we should never assume that anyone here has a certain gender identity, certain pronouns, or a certain experience, right? And even if they look a certain way, we can't make that assumption either. We live in that time and age. That's just what it is. So for me, when I'm not seen, though, and someone assumes my identity, doesn't even ask first, but just assumes and assigns a pronoun to me, I don't feel seen. I don't feel respected in some ways. I don't feel considered. And in fact, I'm not sure if that person is going to understand if I do try to correct them. So it becomes this mental game every day for me and people like me of having to navigate that. So just giving that context and to understand that when we make a mistake like that, the impact that it has on a person, right? So what I recommend doing in those moments when you catch yourself misgendering someone, you know that my pronouns are they, them, but you accidentally say to someone he or she, but you catch yourself. In those moments, I think the best thing to do is to just say, so sorry, correct yourself. Say, for example, so someone said I love her shirt, right? If you said that in front of me, you might go, I'm so sorry, I love their shirt, and move on. Don't make it a bigger deal, right? Don't, okay? And don't make it all about you. Here's two things I often see happening too, is that people will go, I am so sorry that, I'm just not getting this. This is so new to me. I can't believe this happened to you. And they just keep going on and on and on, and it makes it all about themselves, right? And that what happens with that is that you're taking away the attention from the situation and putting it more on yourself, right? Making it all about you now. And I think that what happens is that people have good intentions when they do that, right? They're not trying to be like bad people. They're not trying to take away the attention. But what they're trying to do is excuse that behavior and trying to see if they can get validation that they're still a good person. right? Like, I made a mistake, but can you please let me know that I'm still good? I'm not a bad person, right? I'm going to tell you right now, we're all human beings. No one here is 100% good or 100% bad, okay? And that idea of good versus bad is rooted in, what did I talk about earlier? White supremacy, right? Okay. And you can do more research on that too. So, when we make a mistake, just apologize, correct yourself, move on. Make it super quick, okay? Now, if you don't catch yourself misgendering someone, if you don't catch yourself saying the wrong thing, and someone else corrects you, it's so important to not get defensive. I think that that's what we do as human beings oftentimes. We make a mistake, someone says, hey, you did something wrong. And we interpret it as, what? I am wrong. I am bad. So it goes from guilt to shame. Guilt is when you say, I did something bad, or I did something wrong. Shame is when you say, I am wrong, okay? And we easily shift from guilt to shame. So it's important to not get defensive and to go behind that wall of, I'm trying to be good, I just want to be a good person. And instead be open to it, and to be open to being corrected. And that's just a rule that's good, not just for this situation as an ally, but for life, right? In your work, you're going to make mistakes, right? With your job, with your duties. If you're a parent here, you might make mistakes with your kids, right? Or with a partner. If you're, I don't know, like with your friends too, you might make mistakes. You might do something wrong. It's okay, this happens all the time. But it's so important for us as human beings to be open to learning and growing and to not get so defensive when we make mistakes. So what I suggest you do instead is when someone corrects you, you say, thank you. Thank you for correcting me. And if anything, if you need to apologize because the person that you've wronged is there too, you might say, I'm so sorry, correct yourself and move on, right? I love saying thank you because when someone corrects you, it's not them trying to shame you and say, you're a bad person. It's not them trying to say, you're horrible and you should be canceled, right? When someone corrects you, it's because they see something in you and they know that you are capable of change. They're trying to connect with you. They're trying to say, hey, you made a mistake, but let me correct you because I know that you can do better. And I want you to do better. Because when we all do better, we can all connect and we can be supportive of each other too. And even with business, with our companies, we can be a better team, be more profitable together when we all work together and support each other and respect each other. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
I have a question. Maybe controversial, but I don't find the answers
Love
myself.
it. Do it. Do it.
What are your thoughts on the topic that is going around about start teaching kids in school about, I know, see, it's controversial, right? But I've been asking that myself, and I don't even know where are my thoughts on that. So
Yeah.
what are your thoughts, and what do you think?
Yeah, because didn't y'all ban like critical race theory here too, and like, and you can't say gay in anywhere like classroom settings. I think for it's like what, K through like middle school, K through 12. Jesus Christ. Okay, I come from Los Angeles, everybody, just so y'all know, and I was born in Canada, so I'm like, woo, hello, Florida. When it comes to teaching, damn, wow.
I told you it was.
No. I'm just trying to see how I can phrase this in the right way. I'm thinking about an example of like history classes, okay, and how we have developed our implicit bias, like I talked about earlier, our implicit bias of how we see maybe Black and brown communities, how we see LGBTQ plus communities, how we see people with disabilities, how we see immigrants, right, is all shaped through commercials, media, through brands and companies, through our families, through our religious institutions, but also through school. And what happens when we have history curriculum and history books that are only emphasizing or are being written from the perspective of white, cisgender men, right? Who are oftentimes rich and wealthy and have access to a lot of spaces. What happens when that's the constant narrative, right? And so you can take LGBTQ plus perspectives and identities out of history books, but you're taking things out of history books. I don't know how to break that down even further. You're taking things out of history to be able to shape a certain narrative. LGBTQ plus people have existed since the dawn of time. We may not have used that language, we may not have used these terms, but being attracted to people of the same or multiple gender identities and identifying as more than just a man or woman is nothing new. We've seen this in cultures around the world. In India, there's Hijra folks that identify as third, fourth, or fifth gender identities. In Mexico, there's, I believe it's Mux, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, M-U-X-E. And again, another third gender identity that's been seen in indigenous communities here in the United States, too. There are two-spirit folks that encompass third, fourth, fifth gender identities. So this is something that's not new, and it exists in cultures around the world. But again, I'm going to go back to something I talked about earlier, right? This idea that there's only a man and woman, and there's only straight people is rooted in white supremacy and colonization, y'all, right? So a lot of European countries were going to other cultures and other communities around the world and saying, you're doing this wrong. This is how it's actually supposed to be, right? And it's just not the truth. So when we talk about not teaching LGBTQIA plus identities or names or events in history, I can only say that those things happened and we've always existed. And in fact, queer and trans people have been really instrumental in huge social changes in the United States and around the world. So if anything, it's just robbing our kids of knowing the full picture. And it's also robbing youth of an opportunity to learn more about potentially themselves. And not teaching about LGBTQ identities, not talking about our experiences or our ways of living, and erasing this community doesn't mean we're going away. It just means that you're adding shame and you're making it harder for people to come out and to share with the world who they are. That's just what's happening. Thank you. How are we doing on time, by the way?
I don't know, I was trying to check.
I know, I'm loving talking. This is great. Hi. Yeah.
Alison, thank you for sharing. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So insight. So I have a non-profit soccer team that fights human trafficking for soccer. I had it since 2010. One of the biggest challenges that I've had is that people, though they might know the statistics, they might know, rationally what's going on, there is no empathy, right? And I think this applies to everything in life, to the LGBTQ plus community, to other races, to a plethora of stuff.
Right.
So my question is, how do you create empathy?
Oof. Great question. So the question is around how do you create empathy? I go back and forth. I feel that empathy is something sometimes that just can't be taught. It's something that you learn through experiences. And I think that there's a lot of empathy within communities that are from marginalized identities and marginalized communities, because we understand what it means to be discriminated against, what it means to experience violence just based on your identity, and therefore to understand that other people who experience that too don't deserve it either. Let me just finish this one second. But I also feel like you can build empathy too, but it has to be on one's own individual time. Like, you can't tell someone to be empathetic or to do, like, it's sometimes really hard to teach. But for someone to be able to say, I don't understand this community, I don't have as much empathy, but I want to build it because I want to be a better person, and to take the time to read more books, to engage with the communities, to be open to learning. And the number one thing that I think an ally can do, besides addressing your own implicit bias and your own internalized shame and isms, is to just listen. Just sit back and listen, right? I think for a lot of allies, we want to be seen as an ally, right? We want to speak out and talk a lot. But it's important to just sit back and listen. And through that, you'll hear about what a community needs, and you'll know how to show up, and you'll be able to build that empathy in the process and the compassion. But again, like I said, with my number one thing, if we have that self-compassion and that empathy for ourselves as people, to be able to unlearn that shame, so much empathy and compassion can come forward to other people too. Yes, your question.
Well, I want to stories that it can be a little bit controversial, but so Mafia, they're talking about inclusive and everything. I believe myself to be minority in this group, however, it is inclusive. Me, I'm religion, like I'm Catholic. How would you consider people that wouldn't exactly support, but it is not against what you believe or that they wouldn't strongly support it, but you know that we all base, or at least my beliefs, they're all based in human dignity and love, right? I will never do anything to hurt you or that matters.
Yeah.
Would you see me as someone that is not supporting you, even though I'm not going against anything that might hurt you? I mean, did I?
Yeah. Let me see if I understand. So, are you saying that because maybe someone has a certain religious identity or affiliation with a certain religion, does that mean that they're no longer a safe space, or if they're not someone I can talk to?
Exactly. But because certain stuff like I wouldn't be able to support you because then I'm betraying myself as my beliefs.
Gotcha. So to support, then it would be betraying beliefs. No.
Like
to go against the religion.
Going against the religion.
Yes. Like
to support.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. I've talked to people in all different faiths and religious institutions, and there are some people within Catholic churches, within Islam, right, Muslim folks. There are folks who are Jewish. There are folks that are Christian. There are folks that are atheist. I've all talked to, right? And within each of those different groups, you're going to have people that are supportive, and there's going to be people that are going to be discriminatory. So I don't find that specific religious institutions that's going to dictate whether a person's going to be for or against a certain community. What I will say is that it's important to me, at the end of the day, for folks of any faith or no faith, right, to do work and to lead with love, with compassion, with empathy, with respect. And keep in mind, too, that you don't have to understand someone to respect them, right? You don't have to completely understand everything that I go through to be able to say, this is still a human being. This human being deserves rights and respect and dignity, right? So I think that if those are the values that you're leading from, that's beautiful. And if it goes against the narratives that specific institutions are teaching within those religions and stuff, too, then that's your call. I mean, about how you're going to navigate those spaces too. But if you know at the end of the day what you need to do as a human being, and that means showing love and empathy and kindness and compassion and respect to people, specifically those that are oftentimes marginalized through forms of violence and discrimination across the nation, and that means going against maybe some of the leaders within your institutions, then
Yeah.
no?
No, that's not it.
No?
Not going there. But yes, you answered my question.
Okay, cool.
Keep on going on.
Okay, cool. Yeah, but I mean, I was raised in the Christian church. I was raised Episcopalian. And so for me, like after I came out, it was a little bit of a thing. And right now I'm in a place where I'm actually exploring my spirituality again. And so it's been interesting to navigate some of those spaces too. So just thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
I have a comment on
Yeah.
on the book.
Yes.
Because I see, I'm Catholic too.
Yes.
Doesn't mean I don't respect everybody and everybody's diversity. And in the theme of empathy, if you're empathetic to, if I'm empathetic to you, or like I have to be empathetic to everyone, like you're just a person that has empathy, no matter who you are or how you look like,
Right.
what you believe in. And then when it comes to the, you're worried about how he would perceive you because you're Catholic, and it goes both
They.
ways.
So everyone's going to just
Right?
they pronouns.
Sorry.
It's good. You're good. You're good. Thank you.
So it goes both ways, right? Like why would why would you be worried about how someone sees you or your beliefs? You know what I'm trying to say?
I understand. I think it will take more than the time that he has to do that. That's specifically my point, you see, because I'm not ready to get there yet. And, like, for me, I'm not planning on getting there. Like, I respect you and I love you, and I think I love everybody does the way that it is, and those are my beliefs.
Right.
However, it's like I want to go to your house and tell you to go to church and commune. That's your decision to do that.
Right.
Then it's my decision and my beliefs that is, I don't think I'm disrespecting you or that you're disrespecting me by saying no, I don't want to do that. You might see that as being disrespected, but me, for example, I don't see that you're disrespecting. It's your decision by you not going to church and community. You understand? It's kind of like,
Yeah.
but I'm right now, for some reason, feel that I'm minority because that's the way that I see things. And right now I'm saying that I'm not being accepted of what you're saying. You understand? Or like if I'm in a workplace and I don't want to use the terminology like besides her and he or she, because that's my decision and that's part of my beliefs.
Right.
I'm not ready to get there yet. But then again, you could see it as me being against you. And I don't see it as you being against me. You see, that's inclusive to me. Because I'm choosing, I'm still having my position.
Yeah. 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 I think I'll just say this. I think we're opening up a little bit of a can of worms when it comes to religion. And so I'd love to continue this discussion maybe like offline or maybe online if there are email and stuff too. I think it's a good thing. Yeah. We'll discuss that more. Yes.
No, I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you, Flor.
This is something that is happening, and it's our call, even we decide how to live by it and how to address how we live and what we decide to do with this and with any other thing that happens in the world and in our lives as well, right? So thank you so much. It was very nice to have you here, and Heidi went up and beyond to be here, so I love that.
And I'm off to Vegas now.
Yeah, woo! All right. We are a bit behind schedule. I guess you guys realized already. But I guess everyone has to, go to the restroom, like get a coffee or something. Like we're not going to do a larger or longer break as we thought about. So we'll just do everything and then we'll restart in like 10 minutes as much. All right? Thank you.
Okay.
Déjame, chico.
An organization funded by Melinda French Gates, and what we seek to achieve is to increase the representation of women, of trans, and non-binary people in the tech industry. And I'm very honored to be here, so thank you, Flor, for the invitation, and thank you everyone who put a lot of work in putting together this amazing event. So I'll have the honor to have an amazing panel that I would like to introduce. And I know the other facilitators were amazing, and they didn't have a choosy, but I will do so. Okay, so Priscilla is a Latin engineer and beauty insider who founded Lendava to create a simple, safety, and pleasure skincare routine. She's cutting through the hype and deliver a sure thing, elegant skincare that exists to optimize the functionality of your skin. After years of working to differentiate fact from fiction, oh my God, when it comes to skincare, she created Lendava to prove that one, you can experience the complete luxury and benefit of a multiple-step skincare routine without a vast collection of products. Thank you, Priscilla. Please join us. And her pronouns are her. We have Soledad, is an Emmy Award journalist and media expert. She has extensive experience in political coverage and general assignment stories and economic coverage in different media outlets such as CNN, Fox, Fox Latino, Univision, and Telemundo. For the last 10 years, she's been working as a political consultant, and currently she's the communication director of Mayor Francis Suarez and one of the co-creators of the Miami Miracle. Thank you, Soledad. Please join us. Pronouns are also she, her. And finally, we have Valentina, the founder of AGC Football, a Miami-based women's soccer club, is the mission to empower women through sports and create a lasting impact in the community. With her unwavering commitment and leadership, Valentina has cultivated AGC Community Football into a thriving community that prioritizes women's sports and development. Thank you, Valentina. Please join us. And her pronouns are also she, her. Well, since we had a little break, I'm going to do a sort of activity. So I will ask everyone to stand up, and those who are already standing up, what I'm going to ask you is to raise your hands if you feel represented by what I'm about to say. So everyone, stand up. You too, of course, you're part of it. Okay, so please sit down, or again, raise your hands if you're already standing up. If you don't see yourself regularly represented in advertising. Well, that's good. Okay, sit down if advertising has made you feel you need to change something about yourself. And finally, sit down if you feel that products, social media suggest to buy and consume reinforce gender norms. Mother's Day was a couple of days ago. I remind you those. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm really looking forward about this conversation, and I hope everyone here also joins through questions, comments, so please let me know. And the person who is managing time, please raise your hand if I need to brush off. Hi. Okay, so I'll start with a very easy question, and it's going to get a little bit complicated at the end. So I hope you can bear with me. I would like to know your perspective about how does the current media landscape, so not your perspective, but media landscape, define what it means to be a successful woman today?
Hi everyone. Thanks so much for having me here, Flor, and for the amazing introduction. A little bit more about my background. I'm a Latin engineer and also a new mom of twins, and I have one more coming. And I'm an entrepreneur. I'm trying to create some bath and build my brand Landava that you have just mentioned. Answering your question, I feel that media and mostly social media can sometimes amplify both positive and negative ways about being successful. On one hand, it's a platform where we can share our success and motivate and influence others and empower others to be successful as well. And on the other hand, it can also always sometimes create unreal expectations and generate that need of constantly comparing ourselves and needing validation. So, for example, we see all those perfect lives and influencers which shows these unreal, effortless and glamorous careers, and that can make us feel, can even influence our own perception of success and even question our own career choices and aspirations. Something that I've seen in the last few years is that there's like a key focus in certain industries and ways of being successful, while other professions which are equally valuable are being underestimated. And that's because of media and social media. But in my personal case, I feel the definition of success is extremely personal. And I also believe that you never get to the point where you feel really successful. But if you're waking up every morning, passionate about what you do, and also chasing your goals with determination while finding fulfillment and happiness along the way, then you're being successful, more than what media wants to tell you.
Thank you. So, since you opened the conversation to your own perspective, Sole, I would like to ask you, kind of expanding my previous question, is to have a more inclusive of the gender landscape. So LGBTQ plus people make up 3.1% of people who are represented in the Super Bowl commercial. So I'm using the Super Bowl as kind of a comparison of usually how they are represented in general in the market. So how do you feel, and this is not just like kind of the industry, and how would you define a successful woman, trans and non-binary folks?
Not so easy, not so easy, the definition. No, I think that I would like to take a step back, and I think that the first thing that we need to redefine is media. Most of us, or maybe I'm a little older than most of you, but I grew up in the 90s, so I grew up in 90s, early 2000s, where media was clear what it was. It was TV, it was radio, it was films, and that was it. Today we have social media, we've had it for a while, but I think that in society and in self-perception, there are benefits, obviously, I'm not against it. I think that it creates a more direct channel of communication, and that has a lot of benefits. But at the same time, it adds, especially I'm thinking of young people who are defining themselves in their minds who they are and recognizing who they are for themselves. It adds a level of complexity to the whole issue, because I think that now it's not only about defining yourself. I'm going to compare with my childhood. I grew up watching supermodels, skinny supermodels in the 90s, and in a country where the definition of being beautiful as a woman meant to be blonde with blue eyes, at least like almost 6 feet tall, and no more than 120 pounds. That was the stereotype of what was beautiful, and if you were not that, you were not beautiful. That was one thing, and it was not easy because obviously most of us didn't fit into those categories. But at least I didn't have the pressure of being validated for who I am. And I think that kids today, or young people today, on top of everything, on top of also receiving, because even though we are thankfully more open as a society, and I think that most of us, we understand that there's not just one definition of what's right or wrong, or what's beautiful or not beautiful, but still kids have certain models that they need to follow, and on top of that,
they have the pressure of having to be on media, because I was never on TV growing up. Nobody would see me except for my circle. But now kids, they have social media, they have the pressure of posting stuff, posting their image, and getting like the comparison. It's not just if you fit into one category, but if you fit into one category that makes you feel good, and on top of that, you need to get validated by other people, by how many likes, how many shares, how many comments. And I think that's a level of complexity in this whole situation that is not beneficial for our minds and our mental health. That being said, yes, definitely I think that we still have a lot of room to grow in terms of inclusion, not only with LGBTQ communities, but all type of inclusion, like people who are deaf, people who cannot speak and sign language, people who are blind, like 99% of the things in our society and 99% of the things that we see on media, social or traditional media, you don't see this kind of people. You don't see this type of issues. You don't see people who cannot run because they have an issue with one of their legs. I think that there's so many things that we need to work on, and we need to open our minds that we're so diverse, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and we need to start showing the diversity that we have, and I think that definitely we were not even close to be there yet.
Thank you. Valentina, do you want to join?
Yeah, I would like to add to that actually. Like, I think also, I'm not sure what generation you are, but most of us are older than 13-year-olds today or 11-year-olds today that are very pressured by social media and all that. And I think when I was younger, like the most thing you could do was like photolog, and you had to be like almost a hacker to be able to use it. So we were mature enough when all these things started to show up for us. So we didn't post unnecessary material. We weren't infected either with all this unnecessary media and pressures that they get placed in. So I have a 13-year-old son, and at the beginning when he started using his phone, like I was terrified, of course, you know, the phone is our world now. Before it, you had Snake and maybe a calculator, so now it's a lot more than that, and keeping on top of that as parents. I'm a single mom, and it is not easy to be on top of everything, so I took the easy way out. I just took away the phone after a month, and I gave it back to him, I think, like 3 months ago. That now he's 13, a little more responsible. He knows where to go, and he knows also that he will get the phone taken away if he uses it improperly. But it wasn't really his fault. It was a fault of how things are placed out there for them. So it's the media that's placing information in front of them, and I think it is causing something that we didn't experience as kids. We did have it on TV and everything, but it was more regulated. Now it's in TV, you're sitting at home, right? The TV is all the way there, right? You have things in between happening. It's not your main world. With the phones, you see the kids nowadays, and it's this, they don't see anything beyond that, and I think that's a problem to address, and the media is the main contributor to this problem, definitely.
Wonderful, thank you. I love that you mentioned kind of all the norms of what it means to be beautiful, and Tracy McMillan Cotton, the author of this book, he has an essay that it's In the Name of Beauty. And I'm going to read something about that she puts here. When beauty is white, blonde, thin, tall, and I'm dark, it means I'm more likely to be punished in school, to receive a higher sentence in crime, less likely to marry someone with equal or higher economic status. Denying these empirical realities is our own kind of violence, even if we have good intentions. So, what are the implications of consuming idealized versions of a reality? The importance of promoting and shaping diverse narratives that you were just talking about, of accomplishments and realization of empowering women, trans, and non-binary people.
So yes, complementing what you said, I think social media is making us compare ourselves to others all the time, our lives, our appearances, everything we do. That will cause, and social media causes unreal standards for success and beauty. So we end up comparing ourselves and constantly needing that validation. But the truth is we should celebrate diverse versions of being successful. There are different ways people can excel in their achievements, chase their own goals, and I believe we should, each of us should choose a unique path to success and embrace it, and also encourage other women to do so, regardless of social media, and also be more into our well-being, our personal growth over external validation, because it's good to have like a healthy use of social media, but it needs to be positive. And when you have all these negative effects of social media and these unreal standards of success and beauty, that make us feel, that give us anxiety, depression, and sometimes it's hard to stay connected to our own authentic self when we have all that people with those supposedly perfect lives. I often see that even we question our own relationships after seeing those supposedly perfect relationships on Instagram, and this affects our own relationships and gives pressure and discomfort with our partners. And again, we need to be smart enough to use social media in the healthy way.
I think that something healthy that we can do as a society is, and as a person, at a personal level, it's start demystifying the idea of an idea. Like, why do we, that's not an idea to me. Like, what works for me might not work for you, might not work for you, and what works for me today might not have worked for me 5 years ago or 5 minutes later. Like, trust me, like, my ideal life or my good life today, that I'm a mom, I just turned 40 years old, I have 2 babies, I have a husband, it's completely different of what my ideal life was 7 years ago when I was single and traveling around the world and doing different things. It's not even in your own life, I think you can have an ideal. And the concept, even though I'm a Republican, so I know it's not the most popular thing to say probably. In some places, I'm not against competition and success and anything like that. I'm all in favor of advancing in life, but as long as it makes sense for you. I think that we need to demystify the idea that there's one goal and we all need to go towards there, because that goal is not the same for everyone and it's not the same for ourselves in different points of our lives. So that's the first step that I think would be healthy as a society, to take a step back and say like, okay, let me think about what makes sense for me now. And that's why I think that the more complex part of this whole situation goes with kids, because when you're an adult, you start realizing that, okay, there might be 20 different scenarios where I'm going to be okay, and nothing happens if I change this or that, and I can still be okay. But sometimes when you're a kid, yes, you think that the ideal is to have a lot of followers on social media. And you know what? For most kids, that pressure of having so many followers would be devastating. And it's not success. So demystifying that, I think, is a key part.
I'm going to take a little bit what you just said and ask you, Valentina, a question, because you are in the soccer world, so male-dominated industry, and you somehow change that idealized career that maybe Soledad is talking about, or career/decisions, and you decided to be brave, bold, and create a community that our first reaction is to think it's for boys or it's for males. So tell us a little bit about your story there.
Well, so when I was younger, I used to always tell my mom I want to work for Apple, right? And going back to what you said about the goals and the goals that you meet in certain points of your life, that I ended up working for Apple for quite some time, and I realized my goal had changed by the time I made it. At that time, I was already very involved in sports. I was already playing soccer. I already started a small fraction of what ATC is today. And it started with just some field hockey friends, and then it became what it is today, that we count with over 200 members, and we started a youth program, which is great because now we're not only giving the space to women, but also to 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds who can't find a club in Miami where they can play only women. They usually have to join a boys club, or the level is so high that they never make it to be selected to the high school team or to the club team. because they're 15, maybe they never got the idea of, hey, I want to play soccer, so they don't have the skill that they're requesting. So generating that space for kids now, that we've been doing it for women for a very long time, and now generating for kids, I think, going back also, to influencing the kids. I know I have those kids, those 15, 16-year-olds, girls, that we have a group of about 10 now. They're for 2 hours without their phones. And it's amazing. And the moment they get out of class, they're like, run immediately to the phone, but I make them stretch before they get the phone. I make them have a routine. They know that if they grab the phone when I'm there, I'll be really mad, and I'll make them run the extra lap. And those are things of how we influence people and how we can redefine through our life what success is. Like, the moment I reached Apple, I said, okay, well, I want to have a soccer club now. So I had to redefine my path, my career, what I studied. I also studied advertising, which has helped me a lot in the beginning of the club, to advertise it, to make it known. But we count a lot with the word of mouth. Also, most people are happy at the club, I believe, and I do put a lot of effort, me and the coaches and everybody who works, and also the members like Flor here, that thank you for having us, and that she has put an enormous amount of effort for a lot of the milestones in the club. And yeah, at the beginning when I started, and it still happens, I have certain teams, the club has about 7 competitive teams. I have certain teams that, because of the personality of the players that are in those teams, I know I cannot assign a woman coach to that team. Because they'll be more responsive to maybe a man coach. Or even me, when I have to sub a coach, I know I'm not getting from some players, not everybody, and I'm not blaming them, and I think it may happen to me as well. When a guy in soccer tries to coach me, that's because of what I've lived all my life. I take it more seriously. And I think it's wrong from my side, and I see it happens to a lot of the girls, that it took a minute to break in. Now we have 2 women coaches, and they're awesome, they're fantastic, they're working great. But it took a moment to break that gap into, okay, all of our coaches are guys, or even when I was coaching versus one of the guys was coaching, and how the girls reacted to me. And I'm talking when we first started. It was an education process. And it's no one to blame in society. It's because most of us are from Latin America or South America, and it was just a norm, no? Well, when I was younger, soccer wasn't even an option. I didn't know that I had the possibility to play soccer. Or for me, it was only hockey. And you couldn't play anything else, and I was happy with hockey, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, I was never put in a coachable scenario with soccer until I was, 17. So, all those years, I would have been a pro maybe, you never know. I would have started earlier. Flor also, if she would have started earlier, she would definitely have been a pro today. And I think a lot of people get stolen this opportunity to excel, because there's no spaces for women that they have today for men. And I'm seeing it so strongly, and to the point that it hurts with the youth program. Because the parents come with a real concern, oh, I tried this club, it's all boys. Oh, I tried this club, they didn't take her because she's not good enough. But she never played soccer before, so how can she be good enough? So I'm very thankful to being able to fill that void, even if it's only 10 girls today, just to make sure that these 10 girls that want to come and train have a space to do it, and safely and a safe environment. It's beyond, but it is a problem that needs to be educated. And I don't think it's nobody's fault. Going back to that, it's just the way throughout the years how we've been absorbing it.
We appreciate your work, and we are thankful for your work, because you are definitely breaking down those gender norms and giving the opportunity to people to explore other opportunities that maybe they were not an opportunity for us. So I have one last question. We have a representation today from our panelists and the brands all here, representing a range that women, trans, and non-binary people can be. Beauty, strength, intelligence, though not mutually excluded, as you just said. How do each of you consider representing a breadth and depth of this generated experience from your brand's perspective? How do you manage to put together all of these things, even though you are in a smaller or one section of the industry?
It's not an easy question. I don't know if I'm going to answer it correctly, but what I guess is, in my case, one of my main challenges, and also talking about the difference between women and men, is the fact that I think that we women are expected to do everything, And I'm a mom of twins and an entrepreneur, and I'm pregnant. So for me, it's really challenging to find the balance between my career and my personal life, spending time, quality time with my kids, with my husband, with my family, and even for self-care. So learning to prioritize that work-personal life balance is key for everyone and for everyone who's chasing success or what success means to each person. And I also feel that sometimes that expectation society and the norms tell us that we need to do it all, and even though you're a man and you have to take care of our house, you also need to excel in your career. Give us lack of confidence, or that's my personal life, and also I'm in doubt of my ability of being able to do everything, and sometimes that limits our progression in our career, and also limits our leadership positions as well. That's why many times men end up with the leadership positions.
I'm going to answer from a completely different perspective and from my work. I work in politics. I'm a conservative. I've been working for many years in the conservative world, and it's a constant battle in my mind and in my life, this issue. Because, a little background, it might be a little boring. I'm a conservative. I do believe in small government. I do believe in less regulations. I do believe in low taxes. And I basically do believe that the government has absolutely no right to tell me how am I going to live my life. I think those are the basic principles of the conservative movement. Call it Republican Party or call it however you want. But I think that's the basic standard for a conservative. To tell the government, you have no say in how I live my life. As long as I'm an adult, I take my own decisions and you have no say. A big part of this movement in the last few years, particularly, has transitioned into not caring about this basic principle and start having an opinion about how every single person lives their lives and what decisions this person takes, and I think it goes against the principles. So it's been a constant battle on my end, like to discuss with some of my colleagues that I respect and admire some of the things that they do, and telling them, do you know that it makes absolutely no sense what you're saying right now, right? We are supposed to be the people defending the small government and defending freedom and defending like personal rights and our right to choose whatever we want without someone telling us how to live. And now what you're suggesting here goes against every single basic principle that we've been defending for many years. So at some level, and I'm not gonna lie at all here. I'm not talking specifically about LGBTQ or making it my cause, because of course I care about everybody else, but that's not exactly my cause. I'm talking in a broader spectrum. Like, it's been a little bit of a mission for myself to the way I see it, to try to go back to basics instead of going towards this new tendency that to me doesn't represent the movement. So it's been a challenge there. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can you refresh the entire question so I can answer? We went from one subject to another.
Yes, of course. So we are here representing today beauty, strength, and intelligence. And again, everyone can be all of these or part of this. And how do you consider representing the breadth and depth of the gender experience from your brand perspective?
Well, in agency, it's like, of course, all our members are women. Of course, we have some of the coaches who are men, and also some of our followers and fans are also men. And we've learned in agency to try to coexist and make it very inclusive for both, because it's, as you said, maybe it's not your cause and it's totally respectable. And in agency, it is our cost a lot of the time to make sure the girls feel comfortable and the women feel comfortable and not have them be in situations where they don't want to be. And that's our main thing. So when we pick the coaches, men or women, we definitely put a lot of effort in the type of person, aside from sex, who they are. you know, and the way they treat people and their way of managing people, and that's what's important, right? We have 200 girls, we have per team about 12 girls. So you have to be a person that can handle 12 persons, you know, like, and that's very important. I think most coaches should have that ability as well. And like, not to go too much off subject, but it is a lot of work putting into the type of people that I expose to the people that choose the club or myself, because a lot of the people, as I said earlier, they join the club not because they see an ad on Instagram, they join the club because maybe they know me or they know somebody that knows me. I know Julia over here, she brought a lot of members to the club as well, and she does it because she's comfortable where she is. If we put a coach, maybe woman or man, who doesn't make the people we have comfortable, how can nobody will want to come, everybody will leave. So I think you have to put effort into making sure, you know, the work environment or the way you lead your team is always a comfortable place, not only for the people who work there, but the people that you reach. Because, you know, it's all a chain reaction. Like, we were talking before social media and everything. Oh, and being authentic. I think you said that word several times, and I think that's beautiful. You have to be authentic in the way you portray yourself, authentic. You have to be yourself, and if the people who you would like, if you're yourself, will be attracted to you, and vice versa, you know, because being true to yourself, come as you are, as Claire told me today when I asked her what to wear. It means a lot. It was a lot more, it meant a lot more when you said it than what that the question actually really said. And the answer, I think, was perfect, and it is a lot of that, just the come as you are.
Thank you for that. And I think it's a perfect closing for us to feel like the sense of belonging. We just don't want to be diverse and inclusive. We want to make sure that everyone feels that they belong, no matter who you are, no matter what pronouns you use, no matter how you look. And we want to make sure that whenever we're building a team, whenever we are talking to our constituencies or putting together a club, that those folks can feel that they can be who they are and they are okay by being who they are. I don't know if there are any questions from the audience. Yes, of course, thank you.
Thank you.
Of course.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for you know, just speaking your mind and for teaching us. So I have two short questions. The first one is, Soledad, you mentioned that there is no ideal. Goals are extremely personal, right? And I feel like we all have these ideals about life, about gender, about sports, about everything, about family, about everything at all. But we contradict each other, right? Because you say there is no ideal, but then we want small governments, for example, you know. You say there is no ideals, but then we want to eat certain types of foods. So how do you bridge the gap between what you think is your ideal, which may change from today to tomorrow, to what you can accept from others as ideals? You know, and we have mentioned that you don't have to understand someone to respect them.
I think that exactly that's the answer. Like, we can have, what I meant, maybe I didn't express myself properly, is that there's no one ideal. There's no one definition of success. I think that's a volatile concept that changes from one to the other and changes from one side to the other. That was what I meant. I don't mean we don't need to have goals. We need goals in order to work towards that, but that can be a fluid thing. That was my whole thing, my whole concept. And the other thing is, like, your goals could be completely different to mine, and it's perfectly fine, and I have no say in your goals, or you have no say in mine, as long as we're civil, like you said, the brand here, as long as we're civil with each other. Like, you need to respect the way I see the world, I need to respect the way you see the world. I don't have to interfere in your journey. Actually, I have a responsibility as a human being to help you in your journey if I can, and likewise. And maybe we don't see things the same way. I'm sure it happens in your life. I have many friends, and this must happen to all of us. Like, but they have very different lifestyle from the one I have, and it's perfectly fine. Like, there's absolutely no problem with that. And I think that this I'm going to answer as a mother. I think that as parents, we have the responsibility of showing our kids that there are different realities in the world and that everything is okay. And as long as you are not hurting anybody else or yourself, it's okay. And that you can be happy in many different ways. Like, to try to go a little back to the main topic here, without the need of being, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not an advocate for LGBTQ cause or anything, because it's not my day-to-day work, so I will not pretend that it's a standard that I carry every day or that I did a huge difference, but I did do a conscious decision for my best friend. He's gay, he's married to another guy, and it's absolutely perfect, and I support him, I love him. Of course, I love him, he's my best friend, but not only because he's my best friend. I made a conscious decision to show my daughter that you can be perfectly happy with a same-sex couple and doing, she was the flower girl at not even the flower girl, we're walking down the aisle, her and I, the two of us. Like, I think that we have a responsibility as friends, not just to show that there are different realities, to not make an emphasis that this is different. It's just, we are all different. Like, I think that we need to make an effort in showing that difference is the norm, right? Not to point out like, oh, he's weird, but we like him. No, he's not weird. He's who he is, and you are who you are, and I am who I am, and everything is okay. That is, I think, the biggest responsibility we have as friends.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. As a parent of three, I completely agree with you. And the other question was for you, Toya. You said that we all want to feel like we belong, right? In my team, I have a lot of ex-drug addicts. I have a lot of people with mental disabilities and issues, even some of them that compete in Special Olympics. Now, when someone else's issues conflict with your own mental health, you have to, some of us tend to push them away, right? Or tend to get distance because, hey, we need to protect ourselves, right? So it's hard for people to feel like they belong when they're being pushed away from everywhere. What kind of advice would you have to help others feel like they belong when they have this kind of like, serious kind of conditions?
Well, now the tough question is for me. I would say loving boundaries. That's kind of my answer. So for have a healthy relationship, boundaries are key, but there are different ways to put and to set up a boundary. You can definitely push away someone, and that will be loving, but you can definitely coexist and be supportive, but still make sure that there is a clear boundary because I don't want you to hurt me. So I think finding that balance is crucial, so you can be a community or be part of the same space, but still make sure that nobody's hurting you as a human being or disrespectful for what you think or what you are. So I leave it like what Addison was saying before, correct and move on. One kind of a leave it the same way, like set a boundary, but move on and make sure that that person can still be part of your environments.
If I could just add a little to that, I think it's really, I think as a society, when you're talking about the people that you work with that had like issues in the past, and it's the path that was built for them, right? It was not like, like they woke up a 5-year-old and said, I'm going to be a drug addict. It's just a path that was built for them. I think us as a society, we also need to learn a little bit to be a little more selfless and try to understand the other person before pushing away. I understand there's a huge need of protecting ourselves, and a lot of the media and everything is telling us all the time, like, protect you, but to what point? To what degree and to what risk? I think, people should be just a little bit less self-absorbed. And when people of this sort come asking you for company help or whatever, you don't have to give the entire arm. Maybe all they need is a hello, a smile, and being a little selfless about those approaches, I think, is also a good advice. And yes, I agree with you, the boundaries, but the boundaries are set for yourself, and the other person doesn't really have to know that you're putting all these walls and boundaries. Maybe just, be there, and be friendly, be who you are, and try to be a good person. And I think that would be also another way to approach it.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? If not,
I have a question.
Hi, Angel. First off, thank you very much for the speech. It was really, really interesting. And this is a question that is coming from a conservative. I'm from Venezuela. I came running from the government, so you might understand what my political standpoint would be. So, however, I am very conservative. And I think it's really something that triggered me redefining success, because yes, I agree. Everybody will have a different perspective. Everybody will have a different standpoint in life. However, we are human beings, and we have biological needs. When it comes to a man, it's to protect his family, to build a legacy. And when it comes to a woman, the first thing that comes to your mind is being a mother. What's the biggest blessing for a woman than being a mother? So you were talking about how do you balance life when you have kids, when you have a family. And my question, a little controversial, but would you be willing to sacrifice your professional, or what you consider is your business and professional goals, to be a mother, or no? No.
Maybe, I'm not saying that Dr. Brian has many things, and I completely accept your point of view. I disagree with some things that you said. I think that I personally chose to be a mother, which is a complete surprise, because literally I woke up one, I thought I would never have kids, and I woke up one day and said, I want to have kids, and I have two now. So I think that, to me personally, that was the best thing that ever happened in my life. I would do it again if I had to redo everything, but I don't think there's any need to be a mother at all. At all. I think it's a personal decision that for some people work, and it's absolutely amazing, but some people have completely full life and happy life and productive life without having kids. That's the first thing that I disagree. The second thing, I admire the selflessness of a lot of women that relegate their goals, their personal goals or careers in order to spend more time with their kids. And maybe they're absolutely right, and maybe in the end those kids are way happier. I am not that kind of person. I went back to work 4 weeks after my youngest one was born because I thought it was important. Maybe one day I will regret it and say, why didn't I do that? But that day when that happened 2 years ago, I felt that it was the right thing to do, and I did it. And I wouldn't like to be judged because I took that decision.
I want to add something. I think you can do both. I think you don't need to either choose your career or your mom.
Amen.
That's the challenge for most of the women. As I said before, finding that right and healthy balance between both. And in my case, I learned that since I became a mom, I learned how to prioritize, which is something I didn't do before. Before being a mom, I spent my time either my career or with friends or reading or whatever I wanted to do. As I said, your goals change through life. And since I became a mom, of course that became a huge part in my life. But not necessarily I did less for my career. It's just prioritizing and learning how to spend your time in a healthy way.
And hopefully we have more men taking care of the kids and not necessarily thinking that they need to provide and being also part of the family experience. I think we need to close up. I know we can keep talking about this forever. Thank you, all of you, for sharing your perspective and your insights. Thank you all.
Yo creo que no conocí dos tanto como antes. Pero así
our most valuable assets. So thank you for coming. My name is Mora. I work at Mafia, and from very few months ago, I work at Mafia Foundation, which was firstly Flor's idea, crazy idea, and which she really took on herself to build it up really fast. I mean, this has taken a lot of work from a lot of different people. So thank you for coming and being part of this. This is really a dream come true for us. I don't know if that's really a cliche, but it is. So let me talk to you briefly about Mafia Foundation, but I assure you that this will be really quick. I think that it was Soledad who said this, but this has been the conversation, this ongoing conversation, that the only thing that we all people have in common is that we're all different. We're all different, and that's not me saying this. This has been said by the anthropologist community. So, so this is what diversity means for us. The only thing that we have in common is that we're all different, right? So this was the stone for the Mafia Foundation to work with these communities that we are working and building this identity with. So this idea of working with others has been always, it's not helping, but working with. We really take a responsibility in the way we communicate, and we invite everyone to do so. So the things we say are really important. So I don't want to take a lot of time doing this. I just want to say that we are a network of nonprofits, so we work with other nonprofits in mutual empowerment. So it's not that we give someone who doesn't have or who needs, but we empower, as peers, as a network, as nonprofit peers. We empower others to grow and to showcase their work, right? Because the ones that are doing the work are the nonprofits. So we want to showcase and enlighten that work. So how we do it? We do this. It's really simple with donations, because we can always talk about things that we want to do, or a theoretic or utopic world, but most of all other nonprofits need money, so we work with that. We are really interested in educating people. That's why Addison was here. That was mind-blowing. I don't know how you guys are doing so. If you guys want to join Civil Mafia, we have built a support network. So if you think that you can train someone in something that you know you're good, and you can help or work with other people, showcasing your work and experience, and that would be helpful for others, please feel free to join me. We can speak later about this, but yeah, this is kind of what we do. And also what we do is we are linked to Civil Mafia, which is our marketing community. So, as Flor said before, we want to showcase the work, and this takes the form of looking at their media, their social media strategies, at the way they present themselves in the world, so that it can be a better way to get them fundings, and so on and so forth. So I want to invite to the panel 3 nonprofits that we have been working with, because I want them to tell their stories briefly. And the 3 of them are women, coincidentally. So Elsie, Taekwana, please, Heidi, come join me, please. Yay! So thank you guys for coming, beautiful ladies. This has been, this is the last panel, and we wanted to really talk about the personal journeys that took these women to build their nonprofits, because I think that building a nonprofit comes from a really deep need and a really deep passion to to help people, but also to fulfill a need that has been growing within you. Like I think that forever. So I would like to ask you to briefly describe your nonprofit and of course let us know like what are the struggles you're dealing with, like money-wise, or the communities you work with, or the things, the strategies that you use that or the programs that you have put that are working. So, well.
Lucy, you want to start? Just present yourself.
Hi everyone. Well, briefly, our reach, because usually it takes me more than an hour to explain what is like my nonprofit is Casa Salva, and it takes me a long time because yes, it is a mission. It's kind of like your baby. It's kind of like my baby. So I'll try to make it brief. I'm the founder of Casa Salva, and like what I was explaining, this is actually something that is born within you. It's I believe it's the same for the both of you. That it's not something that you're looking for. It's something that you know comes to you out of a necessity, out of a need. Casa Salva was actually built in 2020 after a trip I had to El Salvador. I'm from El Salvador, and I went to a trip and my bubble was kind of burst. And I came here and I spent over 6 or a little bit more than 6 months, like just depressed and just finding a way to, go and contribute back to my people. So out of that necessity that Casa Salva was created, of course, that's the calling, that's the idea. Now we gotta put it to action. And with that, I want to say that that's where civil marketing and with Mora, was kind of like a little angel to me or to the foundation, because kind of helped me build or get out of my imagination or the plan that I had built in my head, put it in action. It kind of helped me develop little by little what is now Casa Salva. We are now a nonprofit 503 fully approved foundation, and it was amazing. That's incredibly hard to develop. And now we're actually working on our third house with the homes in third world countries, and we also help homeless people over here. We do a variety of services, but our main mission is building homes and taking people or families out of the streets and to live in a roof. And that's, like finding people like Mafia that is willing to not only help you in setting a market, but other than that, kind of like give you the training to get what's your potential, like to give you tools to get there. It's amazing. So I'm just extremely blessed to have all of you as my mentors and helping me out. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Heidi. I'm a large-scale installation artist, and I'm the founder and president of Rainbow Oasis. We are a prismatic 360 development in regards to artists and artists within inside the community. Our pillars are very good. So it goes into each of its own acronym. As you said earlier, I can go on for hours about each and every single aspect of our nonprofit. But the wonderful thing about our nonprofit is that we're the only artist-led artist residency program. We were just, I created this about 9 months ago, and between the 9 months, we've been accelerating in a monumental strides. I'm happy to say that we are launching our partnership with Super Beauty Museum in this August. And we're going to be creating a community outreach program, starting with an art film festival called Roma Art Film Festival. And we're going to be the only art film festival here in Miami. I cannot believe in a short period amount of time how much of a need there is to be sustainable here in Miami in regards to the artists and our community. The birth of the nonprofit resided from the real estate influx that happened post-pandemic. Everyone decided to move to Miami and just pretty much kick out every single local person that existed inside the Miami market, which it happened to me. My real estate went up almost 1,000%, and my landlord said, you got 60 days. So within that, I was able to purchase, I started the nonprofit process, did a GoFundMe, was able to reach my first capital fundraising goals, was able to buy a house. This house has a private efficiency space, and now I'm able to provide artists, at least for the first initial year, 6 artists were able to win the open call submission to have a free creative studio space pro bono, supported through the nonprofit. Now with our endeavors, we hope to, and we're seeking capital for more initiatives so that we can continue to help out our local community and obviously sustain the hyperlocal art scene. So thank you guys for having us here.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Heidi, and my nonprofit is Lighthouse Angels. Just to give you a brief history of it, we started before the name even started. It was called A Heart to Love, One Family at a Time, and that started because my family became homeless back in 2017, and when we became homeless, my son, which is over there, he was like 2 years old at that time. He's 16 now, and we had, I lost my home. I was in Section 8. I lost my home, and we got homeless. We had to stay from pillar to post. We stayed with different family members, and then we ended up in a shelter. So when you be homeless, I don't know if anyone ever been homeless here, but when you're at a low place, you see a lot of things going on. You see your family for who they are. You see your friends for who they are. Because sometimes when you're at a low place, you look for those who you was accustomed to being around to help you. And at that time, we didn't have no one to help us. And I was a mother and a wife and had 3 small children at the time. So we had moved in a shelter. But before we moved in the shelter, I lost my mom to gun violence. She got killed by her boyfriend in the midst of me being homeless. So then after we came from being homeless, that's when we decided to start our organization. Well, one of my friends in the church, he was like, why you want to start an organization? So we always giving. We was always doing things. Even when we was homeless, we was giving to people. And that's when we came up with the name Lighthouse Angels. And the name Lighthouse Angels stemmed from the scripture, Matthew 5:14 through 16, which says, God wants us to be a light to the world. And now we are a 501c3 organization. I started the organization on my own. I did my paperwork and everything, thanks to God. And we partner with the City of Miami Mayor Office. Every week we do farm share distribution where we give food out to 500 families a week. That's every Wednesday. We do it all throughout Miami-Dade County. I also just recently started a senior program. And the purpose of the senior program, because a lot of seniors are isolated themselves. They don't have family. They don't have no one to uplift them. There's a lot of widows out there. So we wanted to have a senior program that we can let the seniors know that they are important. You know, they are the ones who pave the way for all of us. And we have a program actually started in it's Lincoln Gardens. I'm not sure you all are familiar with that area. It's in the Liberty City area. And what we do arts and crafts. We do computer technology with them. And we also teach them how to work their cell phone. We do taking on outings, different things like that. We also have a full program there too as well that we give to the seniors because a lot of them are on a fixed income. And also we do monthly homeless feedings. And sometimes we have a partner, which is Shower in Love, where we have them to come give a shower to the homeless. We give them clothes, shoes. I had an opportunity to meet Ms. Flor and Laura last year. I thank God for that opportunity to meet them because we was already doing a service, but we partnered through the City of Miami. One of the workers there, she introduced us. And then I was telling them about my vision, and they just came and just joined with me. And they came out and served, and that's big to me because a lot of times you tell people your vision, but they don't come out and help. Not only did they came out and serve, but they donated different things to help us with our toy drive. We give toys to schools. We gave at least over 500 toys to kids last year. We gave bikes and different things, and all those things come from donations from people like you to give to us. I never received a grant or anything. A lot of things that I do is out of me and my husband's pocket, and through people us soliciting, having donut sales and car washes and different things to try to do things for the community. And the purpose of it is because we want to light up the road with the love of God. You know, I have been homeless. I have been rejected. I've been, you know, misused. I came up in a home where my mom was on drugs before she passed away. You know, I was raised by my grandparents. So I know what it feels like as a little girl to not have everything you want to have, to not have that mom to love on you, to not have my father there. I was raised with my grandfather. My father was in prison the majority of my life. So I went through a lot of struggles. So that's why I want to give back to the teenagers. I want to give back to the seniors and different ones because I have witnessed myself and actually experienced and lived certain things, gun violence, different things that goes on. I live in this community, the Liberty City community, so I know firsthand what we have experienced, poverty and lack and different things. So I want to give back the best way I can, the best way I know how with the little that I have. So I just thank you all for just taking your time out to listen. We do serve Overtown area, where most of the homeless are at. We serve Brownsville, we serve Liberty City, we serve Miami Gardens, we serve Opa-locka, North Miami area. We get ready to expand in Broward County. So overall, I'm just grateful to be here, and I thank you all for listening.
Thank you too for sharing your stories. I don't know if someone wants to know anything from them, wants to ask them something with their work.
I have a question in regards of your nonprofit. I understand. I think you're very resilient. You know, like I think it's really difficult to come out of that black hole, and you know what you're doing, giving back to your community is amazing. So first off, congratulations for that. My question would be, what is the approach that you would take to your community to educate them so they could get out, not only help them, because I agree, you know, when you're in that position, it's very difficult for you to take rational decisions because you have needs that you need to fulfill. So what kind of education could you offer to them so they can get out of that black hole with their own tools, by building their strength, building their character, so they could get out by their own and they could be on their own feet for the rest of their lives?
Okay, that's a good question. So what we do is we have a needs assessment. So we go into the community, we walk, we knock on doors, we ask them, how can we help you? A lot of them don't have a high school diploma. A lot of them can't afford a job, not afford a job, but a lot of them don't have the necessity or the need to get a nice paying job. And you all know that we're living in Miami where it's high paying rent. It's the gentrification that's going on in Overtown. So in all the areas. So, you know, we have to meet the people where they're at. You can't come up be so heavily high or like you better than someone. You have to come down. So say for instance, if we have someone that needs a high school diploma, we have partners with Miami-Dade County College. We have partners with OIC, different organizations that we refer them to them. And we let them know, okay, this client, they need a high school diploma, you know, and they can go take the GED classes and different things. And we also offer, myself, I'm willing to do tutoring with them. You know, certain families, certain parents, I go into their homes and do different things with them at risk youth. I go to the home, I talk to the parents, I talk to children. There's a lot of children that have witnessed gun violence in front of their door. They have seen people drive-by shootings. Some of those things traumatize children and it affects them in the school. So what we do, we meet them where they at. You know, we try to love on them, we try to encourage them, we try to take them on outings, take them outside of the norm, outside of their facility or what they used to. Take them to Orlando and different places and trips that they may not have, their parents may not be able to afford to take them. But we take them there so that they can see the world in a different place, in a different light.
I also want to add, that's what Mora was also talking at the beginning. We created this support network. So the idea is, right now we're working with this nonprofit, with the hope doesn't fall over us. We're working with these nonprofits, and the idea is not just that we, as the civil Mafia team, provide services for them, for example, to help them build their presentations or their logos, but if you guys have something that you know, and then you can give away like as part of the training or like whatever it is, because maybe it's on the finance side, but maybe Tijuana has a small group of people that needs to understand basic finance so they can know at least how to administrate their own money. So that's kind of also things that we do. So if you guys want to join like that support network and you want to help and then you feel that you're going to give away, I don't know, so give away
Humanitarian.
I want to say something. I'm glad you said that because what I'm learning is reach and teach one. So say for instance, if you're a graphic designer, there's a lot of people that's very talented and gifted that lives in the inner city. You can get a young boy and launch something in them and spark it. The next generation is what we need to push forward. You know, when we get older, we dead and gone. They the one who will have to carry this world. So it's good to be able to reach them and teach them the different things, the tools that different one of us have. You know, my thing is helping them with food insecurity, giving them food, different things. But your gift may be different than God has given you. We all need to come together because when you're united as one, you could do great things and impact in the community. And that's where it's at. You know, and no offense to no one, you know, sometimes we just want to help our own, but sometimes you got to go out of your space. You got to go out of your comfort zone to help someone that's in need. You never know what you can bring. You can really help someone to transform their mind that's probably thinking about going to rob that store because they can't afford, they can't afford to feed their family, so they go rob the store, which put them in prison, and take the fathers out of their home. But you can be that one that can help them and show them the way by giving your services, your skills, your talents, whatever, and transform their mind and make them better persons. And that's what it's about in the community, so we can stop so we can prevent more gun violence and different things that's happening in this world.
Lead by example.
And also something that, from my personal experience, it worked as well, and that you're doing amazingly. It's, you're doing all of this stuff, and you live your testimony, like your living testimony, like you got out of, that situation, and to them, it's, I go back to the people that we try to help out. For example, in my situation, I come from there as well. My house was literally built out of like mud bricks. I don't even have them over here. And we came here not in the best situation, and we lived here for almost 10 years. It was my mom, my sister, my 3 cousins, just in one bedroom. So it's, people that are willing to speak out where they have come from, that make a difference to people that they think that they are alone, just by speaking out and showing them that they can do it. It's a huge impact. So I'm seeing other people that you're touching just by you, going over there and seeing you taking their food. It's kind of like it encourages them to do better, to educate themselves, to kind of like do the same thing that you are doing, like to try to keep, like the ball rolling. So besides doing all of this stuff, you also mentally are adding a lot to them, like in the future, like it's coming, the difference that you're making in their life right now. So thank you so much for doing that, for sure.
I just want to say to any nonprofit or anyone that helps the world through their work, if you ever need any soccer services, please reach out to me. I have a nonprofit, and maybe I'll get the chance to talk to you about it later on. But please come with us to fight human trafficking through soccer. So I have a plethora of knowledge and material that I can give to your communities to help out.
This is great. This is what we were aiming
This is
what we were aiming for. So this is the network that we're talking about earlier. So if there are no more questions, I think that we are live streaming. So for people in Latin America, because we come from the Latin America community, I think we are almost 90% Latin Americans here. So they're watching us from home, colleagues, friends, family. Thank you for your time as well. So Flor?
I do have a question, I guess for the three of you, right? Because you all face hard situations in the past, and some of you face situations that are like really, really harsh. What was it that helped you get out of that situation? Was it an external kind of like support, or was it something inside that changed, or both? Like, what advice would you give to someone that's living that right now and they want to get out of it?
Probably we all have something to say in regards to that. To me, I guess, it was kind of like a reality check when I was able to travel back to my home country. To see all the unnecessary stuff that we worry about over here, because we talk about different types of privilege and stuff, but to me, we all in this room are privileged because we have a roof in our head, because we have food on the table every single day. It takes different routes to get to the point that we are right now. That to me was actually going to a trip and just seeing, a kid that it could easily be my son. I have a 7-year-old son. Asking for money in the streets, like getting on buses, and like not knowing how to get back to his house, or if he has a house, like it makes me think of me worrying about my son that he doesn't have the shoes that everybody's wearing. It's kind of making me step out of, my comfort zone in all levels. And just, like Valentina was mentioning, kind of like breaking those boundaries that we put to ourselves to kind of like always protect ourselves. We always are thinking about me all the time. Like, just, like, abandon it. Like, just, like, abandon yourself. Abandon yourself and try to, like, do more. Do more for people that don't have not even a third of what we have, and we don't even acknowledge it. We don't even know how blessed we are. So that's a blessing, actually, for you to, like, look at that situation and being able to, like acknowledge how much we have. And also, it's your job or responsibility as human beings to contribute. To me, that was kind of like a wake-up call, and yeah, but that was actually.
My biggest motivation behind my nonprofit, it really has to deal with, I consider it, I surrender myself into the process, whether it be in my artistic practice, because it's very glamorous when you're in the top tier with inside any profession, but the layering that has to go from the sacrifices, the time, the energy, the innovation, the statistics, just a plethora of just submission into your practice. You have to lead by example. You must become that individual, showcasing that there is a change in the system, that there is an opportunity if you take these initial steps. There is. And my biggest hurdle at the moment is maintaining my practice as a full-time, and I have a successful artistic art endeavors that's right now. I'm one of my biggest patrons at the moment, but to really, I am completely devoted and I work 7 days a week, countless hours for these initiatives and these prospects. But I know since I'm the youngest nonprofit right here on this panel, but I know overcoming this first hurdle and the monumental strides I'm going to make inside my art community, and already with just a short amount of time I've been able to create, since we brought in our first artist in residence in January, has touched me and moved me in ways that my social practice, but even in my own social work and in my own artistic endeavors, has pioneered into this. That's why a rainbow exists as a prismatic thought, as a 360, as a complete and utter case of how humanity and humanitarian efforts need to become in order to succeed or to help or to inspire that change. So, and I'm more than happy to continue on conversations with each of you afterwards. I know we can all talk about this for days.
I can say for myself, God. That's how I got through everything. By me losing my mom, going through homelessness and having 3 children that I couldn't be able to feed every day, give them clothes, give them the proper shoes and different things that they need. I had to have a place where I had to go before the Lord, like pray. I mean, I prayed more than ever when I lost my house and I had to live in different family members' houses and have to go through people showing you that they really don't want you there, but they just put it up with you. And it took me having to really pray, and encourage my husband and my kids, like that, everything gonna be okay. We gonna get through this. And the more I kept saying it to them, the more I had to keep encouraging myself, like, okay, you're gonna get through this. It's one day at a time. And just to let anyone know here, we all go through something. You may not be homeless, but you may go through something in your mind. You may be going through a divorce. You may be going through something. Just know that you continue to keep him first. He's going to bring you through everything. And I know sometimes it seems cliche, a lot of people don't like to really put God in the equation, but I know for myself that if it wasn't for him, I would not be here talking to you. Many times I didn't want to live. I wanted to leave this earth. And I'm talking about committing suicide, like depression and different things happen and bother your mind when you're going through. But if it wasn't for prayer and also surrounding yourself around people that's positive, those that could uplift you, you can't get through it alone. Sometimes when you go through, you don't want to be alone, you want to isolate yourself, but it's good to surround yourself around like-minded people that can encourage you and let you know, sis, it's okay. Keep going. You got this. Let somebody tell you that you're beautiful. Let somebody tell you that you're a great mom. Let somebody tell you, and encourage you as a man. Let somebody tell you that you're a great man of God. You got so much ahead of you. Sometimes, if we listen to the negative thoughts in our head, we become that. But you got to counteract that and renew your mind. And you got to renew your mind not only by putting your relationship with God, but surrounding yourself around positive people. So that's how I got through it. And I want to encourage you all to keep him first. And surround yourself around people that are going to help you soar into the place that you need to be in.
Thank you. I feel so humble just by listening to you guys. Thank you, ladies. So, Flor, you want to wrap this up like that?
Yeah, just wrapping up a little bit.
Just wanted to thank everybody for being here. You, girls, women, you're so powerful, you're so beautiful. I cannot say anything. Everybody. I was just I just heard to everything that you said, and so I was addressing the specific panel. I don't have anything more to say because we addressed everything today, and this is exactly the mission and the goal of this event. So I don't care if the people over there are dancing and we can listen to their flushing the restroom, and I don't know, if we had more time, we took more time than it was supposed, and if it's the sunlight coming in here, none of that matters, talking about goals, because my goal here was that everybody learn something, that everybody speak out, that everybody say something, tell their story, their experience, and take the time to listen to the other person. We're so into us all the time, and we cannot stop to say hi. We never know who is struggling. The other person may be smiling, may be fun, maybe showing that they are successful at some point in their lives, and maybe they are dying inside. We never know that. And that's it. I just want to thank you, everybody. Just be you, be happy, and thank you. Thank you so much.